thank you for the invitation to share on what is actually an amazing topic, writing your destiny, your own destiny. And the reason it's amazing, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's a topic which really goes to the core or heart of spirituality in general, and certainly within the whole idea that Brahma Kumaris teaches and encourages. Very much about taking the inner power back in your own hands and literally writing your own destiny, when many years, probably the whole life, we've felt consciously or unconsciously that our destiny is not really in our hands. So a wonderful topic. I was actually, because one of the beautiful things about being asked to give a talk or share at a session or something is that you get to think about things in connection with that, of course. And so today I was just noticing in myself that related to destiny and writing my own destiny, is that before I embarked on anything spiritual, my life was definitely in a very different direction. Lots of bad habits, vices and all of that. So I was definitely going in a different direction. And it wasn't particularly bad, but it wasn't a very happy one either. It was okay. But year by year, things were getting more and more ordinary or kind of difficult. And then I suddenly came across the Brahma Kumaris. In fact, I came across spirituality, first of all, and this whole idea of spirituality. And so I was interested in that. And then when I took the what I call the course, the Raja Yoga course in meditation, essentially I completely changed direction very rapidly. And so it's almost like I was going in one direction according to my past actions and that was my destiny, and suddenly veered off into a altogether different direction. So it all happened really with a thought. It was one thought based on a powerful understanding and realization. So one thought completely changed my direction. And it's very interesting because many years before that kind of change, that happened when I was about 28 years old, 29 years old. And many years before that, I had one of those horoscopes done. And it was quite an involved one, and I'd forgotten all about it, and it was stored somewhere. And then many years later, I got it out. And I was already embarking on the spiritual journey by then, well into it by a few years. But I just got it out and read it. And it's a very interesting definition of my character, which I couldn't disagree with. But one of the aspects was that in your late 20s, you will embark on a spiritual path. It will be a major, I can't remember the wording, but something like it will be a major change in your life. And I'd forgotten all about that. And that's exactly what happened. It was a major event. I completely changed direction. So what's that? On one hand, you could say, if you believe in horoscopes, that destiny was written. That there it was in paper. This is mapped out for me at that time. So it was written in a way, but at the same time, I made a decision. So yes, the journey's mapped, but I still made the decision. And I could equally have made a different decision. And then I could have interpreted that horoscope as, well, in a more general, relaxed affair, rather than the more complete way of seeing it as I do now. So it's a very interesting area, because some of you, I'm sure, are quite believing in horoscopes and astrology. And so that is revealing your destiny, yet at the same time you can't ignore choice, and that's where the writing comes into it. One of the things that I thought was really important in this subject of destiny is that destiny suggests that everything is written for you. And actually, if you observe your life, your current life, Well, obviously, you're not going to observe your anything other than your current life, unless you've got a parallel life. So if you observe your life, then you've been moving along in life in a certain way, and circumstances may have changed for you, like kind of when you get married, that's a big change. When you move, get a house, it's a big change. Get a job, that's a big change. Change a new job, or change in circumstances, for whatever reason. So these are big changes. But actually, if you observe, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me. You're all muted, so you can't say you won't. But you're welcome to say either way. But you may note that the circumstances change your life experience, your lifestyle, or your circumstances of life, shall we say. Whereas what you are inside is actually your experience of life. I'm going to put it in that way. So in other words, the external changes don't necessarily connect to a change inside. For example, if I have low self-respect, then that's going to be there whether I've got wealth or not wealth, lots of connections or no connections, a prestigious job or no job. That lack of self-respect is going to be there anyway. And so that's what I love about spirituality, in that it's an internal journey and an internal transformation. So I think that's very important to recognize. Another thing is, within the subject of destiny comes the words fate and providence. I think everyone will know the word fate. Providence, unfortunately, is not used so much. But I remember my mother used to tell me, when I was moaning and groaning about something or another, she used to say, don't tempt fate, tempt providence. You know, if you say, oh, nothing's working out for me, oh, this is bound to go wrong, or oh, life's boring. The speciality of teenagers, that's a statement. So we can say many things, which is tempting fate, and say, although fate and destiny are the same things in a way, except for that fate is more the downside, the more kind of more negative slant on it. Whereas the word providence is about prosperity, happiness, fortune, luck. It's upbeat. So that's why she said to me, don't tempt fate, tempt providence. So if you're going to say anything about life, yeah, okay, it's good to clarify what's going on, but to try and entertain thoughts of what you would like to have rather than thoughts of what you don't want or you don't want to have. Now, on that angle of providence and destiny, a lot of people idealize. I think all of us have idealized in our life, called dreaming, daydreaming, imagining. So an ideal future. And this is deep in the human psyche. So you would have either created a dream, or you may have been sold a dream by the media, by advertising, by parents, by peers, by school. So the whole idea is that you've got this wonderful golden future in front of you, and that golden future can look like, well, whatever you want it to look like. But often it used to be, not so much now, but it used to be the picture of happily married with 2 kids and a dog and a hamster, living in a lovely cottage with roses. I don't know anyone who lived like that, but often that was kind of, actually it's probably going back even before my time, 50s and 60s, the idyllic scenario. But I think all of us have probably got some ideal in our mind about what life would look like if it was perfect. And so this is the golden dream, the ideal dream. And so what will be in it? Freedom from labor, a lot of happiness, a lot of love, enjoyment, freedom of time. So another way of describing this is retirement. Looking for retirement. And I know quite a lot of people who actually are aiming for retirement. Even when I was quite young, I was really surprised that not many, but some of my friends were already thinking about retiring. When I say thinking of it, they weren't able to, but they were thinking of, when I retire, life will be free and I'll have time and all of that. And I just couldn't get my head around that. When you're early 20s, how can you be thinking of retiring? But I think nowadays I've noticed, maybe it's a millennial thing, I don't know, but this idea of retiring young after having made your fortune somehow or another is very appealing. And why? Why is it appealing? Because the retirement suggests all of the things I mentioned earlier: happiness, freedom, prosperity, and all of that. So this, I think, is the destiny that everyone wants, and everyone's going to paint it in their own way. However, although that it's very good to have a dream, not just good, I think it's essential to have a dream for this life, an ideal. And mine was one thing when I was much younger, before spirituality. It was more physical based, about money and travel and this and that. I still like the idea of travel. But once you either embark on a spiritual journey or just simply include it in your life, then I think your kind of criteria of what's important changes, and it becomes more internally based. And so we have this internal kind of ideal of what a beautiful life would be, what wonderful destiny we could have. But again, whether it's a physical dream, a spiritual dream, an internal dream, an external dream, there's one thing, a trap, I think an awful lot of us fall into, and that is a dream without a plan is not going to happen. Period, as they say in America. Full stop. It's not going to happen. And I know myself, I've kind of been caught out many a time by dreaming and even planning, actually. So you have a dream, and if you don't plan, then that dream is just, it's not going to happen ever. At least with a plan, you've got a method. You know how to reach your dream. But after you plan, what have you got to do? Execute. You've got to act. You've got to apply your plan. And if any of you are like me, when it comes to planning, I get a lot of happiness out of planning. In my papers, which are dotted around, I always find some kind of plan or another. And sometimes I get a big sheet of paper and do my life plan, incorporating all the aspects of life: spiritual, physical, financial, self-development, this holistic plan to create, you could say, it's a Renaissance man or Renaissance woman. That's a more modern term for the ideal person, who's kind of an all-rounder, spiritually stable, fit and strong and healthy, articulate, capable, effective, many skills and all of those things. So that was wonderful plans, and I used to get very, very happy about it. But if there's no action, then that plan is just a waste of time. But the plan gives happiness, so you feel you're progressing when you're making a plan. But you're not. You're not progressing. Okay, you're progressing a bit because you're clarifying, you're quantifying, you're working out the steps. So definitely that's progress. But it's just like if you're planning to go to London from wherever you live. You can create a plan and know all the steps and where you're going to stop, but it's still not much good unless you get in your car and start driving. So the same with destiny. I can imagine, I can dream, I can plan, but I've got to actually act. Very important aspect. The last aspect of kind of writing your destiny: dream or goal, whichever word you like, plan, action, but also checking and changing. So these are really practical steps, because you may have done all of the first three, but you still got to check, was your plan fit for purpose? What you thought would work, is it working? Or is it not working as well as it could do? And also, because I listen to a lot of successful people in different fields, because I love to learn, and I love listening to people who have achieved things, because it's not, when people have achieved, by and large, a lot of them say it's not the ultimate goal, it's how they got there. That was the real happiness. That was the ordeal, the challenge. It's what made them who they are. So a lot of the people who are very successful in sports or business or academia or whatever it is, a lot of them really appreciate that it was the journey more than anything else. What they got at the end of it, standing on the podium for a few seconds, or winning something, or title, okay, that's nice. But it's what they were made through the process, through the headache, the heartache, the struggles, the having to go deep in yourself and find the qualities needed, the strength needed, or the wisdom needed, or sometimes the humility to have to kind of bow down and recognize, well, what I thought would work is not working. I have to go and ask advice. I have to accept that my idea was not right. So all sorts of things we would learn on the journey, and they are actually, I would say, what the life is all about. Because that destiny, the biggest thing is, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. And I can happily say this because, and the reason I'm kind of laughing about it is because it's it's like the cosmic joke of this destiny. We get inspired for a destiny to reach to, but the joke is you're never going to get there. And one of the people who comes to my mind is one of our main teachers who left, we say left the body, the soul left the body recently, Daddy Janki, the elder sister, that means, Janki. So she passed away in March this year, the young age of 103 or 104. And she was a student to the end. She never felt for a second that she got there. And I'm sure even in her last moment, she was probably still studying. Not like studying, reading things, but studying as in observing herself, working on herself. And so, yeah, there will be some ultimate destination or achievement. But I don't know when that will be. I don't think anyone knows when that will be precisely. So in the meantime, it's all about the journey. And so if it's all about the journey, the writing your destiny is actually all about the writing rather than the destiny. Let the destiny come. Just like tomorrow will come. But if you try and live tomorrow today, it won't work. Another aspect of the journey and the destiny is that very often we think one thing, but something else happens. Someone was telling me a good joke today. He said, "What makes God laugh? When you tell him your plan." When you tell him your plan, he laughs. Because God's got the unlimited perspective, and we have a tiny perspective. You can still tell him your plan, but he knows a bit more than you do. So, in the same way, God, however much you bring God into the equation, but just like that saying, man proposes and God disposes. Or you could say man proposes and the journey of life disposes. But what happens on this journey, you come face to face with understandings, realizations, opportunities that just weren't in your mind before. And again, if you ask or just listen to many successful people in different arenas of human endeavour, then one of the things many of them have said that they never knew they would get to where they are today. That wasn't their goal. They were going one direction. They had a dream. But on that journey, they became aware of something else or realized that dream's just not working. But in the process, they discovered something else and moved direction to something which brought them far greater success than they ever dreamt of. So I think it's really important to check and change along the journey, both in the method to reach your destiny, but also just to check in with the actual destiny itself. Just to share that in the spiritual perspective, in Brahma Kumaris we are offered it's like an invitation that if you want, you can achieve or become this person, this consciousness, this being who's so full of virtue, means loveful, peaceful, powerful, wise, deep, stable, tolerant, an authority in yourself, many, many virtues and strengths, really sharp and wise and all of these things. So we kind of solve this idea in the sense it's presented. This is a possibility. And I would say most on this path have embraced that to one level or another. So that's the journey or destiny. But when we start, all of that means something to me. I have some perception of it. But as I go along the journey and actually start to experience what spiritual love is, spiritual peace, spiritual happiness, so my perception of that goal or that ultimate state, that keeps on changing. So every experience makes me more aware of what I'm reaching to. So it's like the destination keeps moving. So when I actually meet it, who knows? And it doesn't matter, because each step is bringing me closer to my own truth in that way. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. One thing I want to clarify is what do you actually want? So we've made it clear, destiny is in your hands, and I'm going to clarify what I believe is the fast track way to write your destiny. But what do you want? What do you want? I think it's a really important question, because if you don't clarify what you want, you can end up living a very unfulfilled life or mediocre life. You can be tolerating things that you should never be tolerating. I don't mean that you should moan and groan and complain, but meaning sometimes you just kind of tolerate being dumped upon, or tolerate ordinariness or regular insults, or there's all sorts of things human beings are capable of tolerating. And although to tolerate is a quality and a power, but at the same time, so is discernment and judgment. So is the power to face or to deal with difficulties and situations. So I need that wisdom to tolerate when I need to tolerate, but to face when I need to face. Face means kind of have that difficult conversation, or come face to face with a weakness in myself, which is really debilitating me, which is really like kind of like irons around my legs when I'm trying to move on. I'm going to explore this a little bit in a moment. So clarify what you want. And one of the ways, I think, to start is to explore what do you want practically in your life? Because that's like a window into what's important to you. Where do you want to live? How do you want to live? What people do you want to be with? What kind of fitness and health do you want? What kind of finances do you want? What kind of, where do you want to live? So all of these physical aspects. What kind of skills would you love to have to be, what skill sets would you love to have? So this is a kind of physical description of what you feel is important. And the reason for starting there is that the physical is usually easier to perceive, but it gives you a window into the deeper aspects of yourself. So once you've explored that, what kind of physical lifestyle you'd like to have, then to ask, well, what kind of mindset would you like to have? What mind? Kind of happy mind, peaceful mind, a kind of clear mind. What's important to you? And as I'm asking these questions, it's not a workshop, so I'm not going to give you much time, but things will just pop into your mind, and so it's worth taking note of whatever comes in your mind. And then you can go a bit deeper spiritually. What do you want spiritually? And some of you will be very clear about spirituality, you'll be on the spiritual path. Others may be quite new to the idea. But in spirituality, what kind of state of love do you wish for? How do you perceive inner contentment? What kind of worthy purpose would you like? Would you relate with? And so one way or another, to get a perception of what your ideal is. And the clearer your ideal is, the easier you can bring it into your awareness as a feeling. And here I want to throw out a lovely quote, courtesy of Gandhi, who many of you will know, said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And it's a very challenging one, because we all want to see a better world, and many, many people talk about a better world, but to be the embodiment of that change. So if I want a world of love, I have to be loving. If I want a world of peace, I have to be peaceful. If I want a world of intelligent, wise people, then I have to be intelligent and wise. If I want a world of tolerance and calmness and consideration, then I need that too. So you can go on and on with that. And you might end up with the conclusion, well, that means I have to be perfect. I want a perfect world, so I have to be perfect. Well, that's okay. So let's define that for the self. Because as what was that thing? Someone said that if you can perceive it in your mind, I can't remember how it goes, but essentially, if you can perceive it, you can be it. And in order to bring about that change in destiny, we focus now on creating the ideal. The other requirement is to realize, where are you? Just like I mentioned earlier, you make a plan to go to London. Well, you've got to understand that you're coming from Bradford if you're in Bradford. No point making a plan to go from Bradford to London if you're in Worthing, in the south coast. It wouldn't work. So we need to be really clear where we are. And where we are on a more subtle level means what habits, weaknesses, tendencies, how do I keep on tripping myself up? Do I have this deep habit of starting projects and never finishing them? Do I have the habit of confusing the issue? Do I overthink things? Do I plan everything out but never hit the green button, the go button? So to understand where you're at, and in a spiritual scenario, we're offered this idea that we've fallen a lot spiritually. In spiritual terms, it's called from being conscious of yourself as a spiritual being, a soul, to being totally caught up in the body, trapped in bodily awareness, trapped in vices and negativities. So it's not about feeling that, it's about realizing that. So if I think, my destiny is to be this wonderful being, but my current condition is so deteriorated, then now I want that back. I want that truth. Okay, let's move on. Writing your destiny. Now, you can't really have the word destiny without the word karma. But I'm sure some of you were already aware that destiny and karma kind of are intertwined. Where you are right now Now, where you are, meaning where you're sitting physically, where you are in your finances, where you are in your circumstances, the quality of your relationship, your health, everything about where you are now, your state of mind, your level of happiness, your feeling of freedom or bondage, whatever it is in your mind, wherever you are now, that is your destiny from your past. This can be challenging. And I'll put it in first person. Where I am now, everything about where I am, I have made it here. I have brought myself to this place. The specialities, qualities, and goodness, and all of the issues, the problems, the challenges, I have brought. This is where I am, is the destiny I have reached that I was creating years before, or years before, right up to yesterday. And if you want to understand karma, which is actually integral to understanding destiny, there's one thing you have to put aside, and it's quite challenging actually, and that is emotions. And believe you me, I've seen it in myself, and I've certainly seen it in many other people, that it's not that easy to put aside emotions, because emotions are connected to the body, bodily awareness. And because we're of our bodily awareness, we see karma, cause and effect, action, reaction. We see karma too much on the physical level, where in actual fact it's the soul, the being inside, who is carrying the karma, living the karma, and playing out the karma through the body. And so if we can put aside emotion, we will get the clarity to understand karma, which is fantastic. Suddenly your eyes open to where you are, where the world is, and the opportunity is suddenly available to you. So I'm not going to go into the details of karma because we don't have time and the talk's not really about that. But one thing I think which is so useful to understand is there are two main aspects of karma. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because they're the main aspects from this talk's perspective. Firstly, well not firstly, but one aspect is you get the return of karma. You have got the return, you're getting the return, and you will get the return. So the return means what comes to you. What comes to you? Experiences, circumstances, people, wealth. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes almost as quickly. All sorts of things come. So like, as you're moving through time and space, you're continually receiving the return of karma. Sometimes called the fruit of karma. So you planted the seeds and you're getting the fruit. Karma. So that fruit of karma is your destiny. It's the destiny that you're living now based on the the seed you planted some while ago, and the seed you're planting now are creating the destiny, in other words, the fruit that you will experience tomorrow, next year, decade, or whenever it is. So that's one aspect, return of karma. The other aspect is the effect of karma. Effect of karma is instantaneous and it is on you alone. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. It doesn't involve anyone else at all. If you give someone happiness, then okay, they may give you happiness, or you give someone sorrow, you shout or get angry at them, they say something back, that's the return of karma. But the effect, everything you think, and in particular the feelings, the awareness within what you think, is creating an instant effect or impact on your own self. So every time, I'll just say first person because it's safer. Every time I get angry, then okay, if I express that anger, then I will get the return of it from wherever it's expressed to. Even my body, if I keep getting angry, my body's going to react back to that anger at some point. But much before that, the moment I feel anger, I am reinforcing anger in my own self. Every time I feel, I allow the feelings of struggle or irritation or depression to come, I'm reinforcing that in myself. Conversely, every time I feel happiness or generosity or love, I'm reinforcing that in myself. So we want to write a destiny, of course, which is wonderful and beautiful and something which is worth aspiring for. So that's why it's effort, because it's easy to go downhill. Let off the brakes and down you go. And the world is going down. It's easy to release the self and get angry, upset, or depressed, or worried. And I'm not trying to reduce the people's struggles. I know depression, for example, can be such a challenging thing, and not to be sniffed at all. It's a big thing to get through. But what I try and make really clear for myself, and also for other people who would like to listen, is that yes, whatever I've created, I'm living with that inside. But now, how do I want to continue? And that's where I need to create the consciousness, invoke the feelings inside that correspond to where I want to go. So if I want to feel prosperous, happiness, joy, adventure, peace, etc., I need that to be created inside. So it's like you're creating the spiritual blueprint in yourself for the beautiful life. Now, the requirement for this is none of my thoughts and feelings can be based on what's out there, what's happening. If my happiness is dependent on others, then that can go as quickly as it comes. Everyone's experienced that. If my love, feelings of love, are based on the love I receive, that's limited love, it's bondage love, it's attachment love. And I'm sure everyone here has experienced love where you may have been very loving, but the other person didn't respond or reflect that back to you. And so your love turned to something else, disappointment, anger, or whatever it was. So as the whole idea of this topic is more spiritual in nature, the key to invoking that wonderful destiny is to perceive what you would be like when you're full of love, peace, joy, happiness. One thing I came across, and which I think is so useful, is to use models. And because in spirituality we're dealing with all of the non-physical kind of conceptual ideas of happiness and peace, but what does it look like? What does it feel like? Now here you can use examples. So someone whom you really feel has got the sort of happiness, the sort of love, the sort of confidence, whatever quality, speciality you're looking for, if you can find some example of that. Now for me, I really admired Daddy Janki, who I mentioned earlier, Daddy Prakashmani, the previous leader of Brahma Kumaris, the founder. I never knew him personally, but I know of him a lot, and other individuals who are kind of top of their game in different aspects on a worldly level. These are like my models. And there's this wonderful question. I thought, when I heard it, I thought, brilliant question. And I'll tell you what it is. I won't keep you waiting. The question is to ask yourself, see that person, identify what it is about them that you find so appealing. And it will be some quality, some speciality. And then ask yourself, what does that look like when it's me? What does that look like when it's me? And that way, you're releasing your connection to the person. You're holding on to their speciality, quality, uniqueness. And now you're what's called imbibing that. You're feeling, what does that look like when it's me? What will I be like? What will I feel when I'm so confident? What will I be like when I'm so spiritually stable, powerful, peaceful? What will I be like when I'm so happy and content in myself? What will I be like when I've released myself from the burdens of all the pains of the past? What will I be like when I approach every day with so much joy and happiness? I'm just throwing things out. You decide for yourself what's important to you. But it's really, really useful. And so when we work on that level of karma, basically the effect, so you're holding in your awareness the feeling, the consciousness, the kind of perception of some wonderful state of being. And when you hold that in yourself, then you can then bring that into your life. So whatever you're holding in your awareness is simultaneously feeding back into your own being, your own consciousness. And as time goes on, you become more the embodiment of it. So this is writing your own destiny. And as we move along, we become more clearer and keep on updating the destiny we want. But really, rest assured, every thought, every word, every action that you have that is corresponding to something greater than you are now is definitely topping up or adding to what you are inside. It can't not happen. It is the law of karma. One thing which I became aware of, which is really useful to bear in mind in all of this, is one little word called blame. Anyone ever blamed anyone for anything? Now, blame is wonderful, only for one reason, is because once you blame someone, you're off the hook. That's why I say it's so nice to blame someone, because once I've concluded that it's all this person's fault, I'm free. I don't have to change. It's all their fault. And of course, it doesn't really work, because I may have got free from the direct consequences of some action, or some circumstance, but there hasn't been any realization or transformation. But we are living in the world of blame. We are brought up with the whole idea of blame. The world works on it. Is that every film or so many things in media is all about blame. Whatever happens is pointing the finger. Look at the newspapers. Don't look at the newspapers actually. Definitely don't. But if you have, then you would have noticed it's all about blame, or the government, or this one, that one, the other one. It's blame. Blame is such a disempowering thing, because it's wanting the other one to change without me changing a bit, which is directly contrary to that slogan which I mentioned earlier, be the change you want to see. Instead, it's others have to be the world has to be the change so I can see it. It doesn't work. And I found it takes a lot of introspection, it takes a lot of humility to recognize where I'm blaming. And on a surface level, I can say, well, I don't really blame. I'm responsible for myself. I hold myself accountable. But each one will have to do their own work on that. I don't mind admitting to you that I have found in myself a lot of subtle blaming, and it kind of comes in a subtle way in the thoughts. And but when I've seen it there, and what it does is kind of like a kind of stream of thoughts come up about blaming someone and something. And the thing is, quite often it seems justifiable. Well, they did do that, and things are like that, and other people agree with me that it was like that. And yeah, that could well be true, but it's not really about the what happened or why something happened. It's more about the feelings I had inside, because by clarifying that something or someone is responsible outside of myself, I'm then not looking deeper inside. And it's a remarkable thing. When you take responsibility for yourself, it's a key to incredible freedom. There was a book written actually, which I really liked. It's not a spiritual book, and it's called Release Your Brakes. And the key part of it was, don't blame. There's many other things, but that was one of the key aspects. Is blame is one of the roots of so many emotions. If you don't blame, that includes yourself as well. Don't blame yourself, because we've all done things. I can think of loads of things I've said and done for which I think, well, that wasn't very good. So I can blame myself. So I don't want to blame myself. I don't want to blame others, but understand. Yeah, I have to accept what I've done for what I've said, but to realize. One of our teachers said that, if you feel compelled to repent, then okay, repent, but don't spend so long doing it. Get it over and done with in a few seconds or minutes, and then transform, because the greatest gift to myself and to others, I feel, is when we transform rather than blame or ourselves or get kind of heavy on ourselves. And that's something I like to work on a lot myself, because I was very fast at blaming myself, which of course made a few other people quite happy as well, because they didn't have to blame me, because I blamed me anyway. So to kind of sum it all up, time does not go fast, does it? To sum it all up, clarify where you're going, your destiny, and get input. In Brahma Kumaris, there's so much wonderful knowledge available to give an idea of what's possible for a human being to achieve. Understand that, internalize that. Either get a plan or create a plan to move in that direction. Keep checking yourself to see how that's working and if you need to make any adjustments. Release yourself from blame and realize that there's an instantaneous effect on your own consciousness. And so it's like you're moving along, but all you need to do is have attention here. Here meaning this is where you are sitting, the soul is sitting here. So it's like a soul journey through the body. I, the soul, moving the body, I, the soul, living this life. Now what would I like to experience? Okay, well that went fast. I was going to share a fair bit more, but I think I'm fairly happy that I've shared the main points, which is what I thought was really important. So so let's pass on to any questions, and then we can have a meditation, and in the meditation I'll incorporate some of the ideas. These are the ideas I share, plus a few additions.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful sharing. I think that when we think about destiny, we definitely have to go very deep into that silence of thinking. Otherwise thoughts just come and they quickly go away as well. They don't tend to stay and let you experience the deepness. So I think we'll have to go a little deeper into this topic as well. We have two questions so far. Number one is a certain gender of a child in your destiny or in your karma?
Right, good question. Interesting question. In spiritual understanding, that there's the idea that if someone's having a number of lifetimes, then they will roughly alternate, male then female, male then female. And but I think you can get an idea of what you were in your last birth according to your innermost nature. I know for myself, I think I must have been in the female body beforehand. What's next, I don't know. But because the soul takes the sense scars, means the deeper tendencies with it. So in many ways, it's the sense scars which are determining the next birth, whereas the karma is determining the circumstances of the birth. For example, we understood that if someone gives a lot of wealth and benefit to poorer people, then he would take birth, or she will take birth in a wealthy home, or even become a prince or a royal in the next life. So there's this kind of criteria according to your actions, and so that's a return, but also is the sanskar that is being taking you.
Thank you. Another question is, does God write your destiny, or do you write it yourself?
God doesn't actually write your destiny, no. You write it yourself. And I think this is one of the things which is key in Brahma Kumari's teachings or ideas, which really gives us personal empowerment. That yes, God is there, and there's the understanding that God is a living being, a soul, just like you and I, but that soul is like a seed, which you can call, say, he's the essence, the absolute, perfect, unlimited essence of total love, total peace, total bliss, total power. So he's like the ultimate blueprint of every possible virtue and power and state of being. And then, so he's there, and there's us. And so he doesn't write our destiny, but when we connect with him through our mind to mind, in other words, you focus your mind on God, the Supreme Being, which is the highest karma actually, and the one which brings the maximum transformation in yourself. So when you do that, then it's like you're downloading the power, the virtues from him. I mean, it's not really happening like that. You're synchronizing with him. And so he's not writing your destiny, but your destiny is being written more powerfully through your connection with the Supreme Being.
Thank you. Another question is, what was the important tool you have to use from the Brahma Kumaris to change your destiny?
Yeah, the important tool, really, the tool is knowledge, understanding, and then meditation. Because if you haven't got knowledge, then you can't meditate because you don't know what to do. So you've got to have knowledge first about yourself, the soul, about God, the Supreme, and knowledge about karma. So you need all sorts of knowledge in order to have bring about change. But knowledge alone is just philosophy. So you also need to firstly meditate on it. For example, you probably all know this term, Om Shanti. So it means, translation is, I am silence, or I am peace. So meaning either soul and peace. Okay, got that. That's 1 second job to understand it. After 30 years, I'm still practicing it. Because to actually be Om Shanti in the ultimate meaning of those words, it's a long journey. And so I meditate on Om Shanti, I am peace. And the more I meditate, or actually it's more the deeper I meditate on that, then that becomes experience and transformation. And once I've experienced what spiritual peace is, now I can bring it in my life. And when I bring it in my life, there's transformation. Knowledge and meditation, the first two steps, but the transformation happens when I apply it in life.
Okay, on to the next question. How do you void the body of emotions when they're with us every day and without losing empathy?
Thank you. That's an interesting one. I think to kind of tackle that one in reverse order, it's really worth clarifying what empathy is and how much is needed. And for empathy, usually the idea is that I can feel what other people are feeling, but so that I can understand them and be on the same page. But if we explore that, if someone's in sorrow and pain and anguish, do you really want to feel that? I don't think so. Because if they're in pain and you have to be in pain as well to know their pain, to understand them, then that's not so helpful. But I would redefine empathy as more like compassion. So you can empathize on the level of, you can understand where they're at. You can understand what someone's feeling because you keep your mind clear and clean. Your mind's not full of your own stuff. So that clean, clear mind can really understand what someone's going through, but you don't have to feel it. And I would really recommend don't feel it. So because of the clear mind, then you can have more peace, more power in yourself, the soul. And now you can have compassion, you can share love, share peace, share lightness, and that brings about transformation. In the aspect of emotion, it's quite a long journey because emotion is simply the feelings when they're hooked onto the physical consciousness. So long as I think I'm this body, which is very normal awareness in the world, then I'm going to have emotion, positive emotion, negative emotion. But of course, some of it's semantics, but I like to just define the pure feelings are like the virtues, love, peace, happiness, and the emotions are the distorted virtues. So I'm really clear what's emotions, what's qualities or pure feelings. And so the task is to keep shifting away from emotion, and that can only happen when I think myself as the soul inside here, the being of light. So to kind of practice, I'm the light of peace. The light of peace is speaking. The light of love is looking. The light of joy is working.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Another question. Are you okay answering questions?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Go for it. Okay. 5 more minutes. Okay. And because there are still 10 questions altogether.
Very good.
So we may not get the chance to finish them all. Anyway, let's see what we can do. This next question is asking, I struggle to sleep well and often lie awake for hours, worrying about things that may or may not happen way in the future. How can I help change this?
Yeah, that's. I think that happens to a lot of people, worrying, especially at night. The context varies, but a lot of that at night. I think one thing to recognise is that I think for almost everyone, when you go to sleep at night, when you lie down in bed to go to sleep, you'll probably notice that the same kind of pattern happens in your mind because it's become a habit to think in a certain way. And so first of all, recognize and clarify what's happening. And then before you go to sleep, read something very empowering and spiritual. So that, or even watch something. Actually, maybe not watch, because you know, screens often have an impact on the eyes and the brain. So maybe just read something spiritual, or listen. Listening is good, but not watching. So you've got some really positive ideas in your mind before you sleep. And then also before sleeping, you can journal. And I found this a very useful way. So you clarify, because quite often when there's something in your mind, you're going like round and round in circles. But when you journal, it's like you're getting it out onto paper and you're clarifying it. That helps a lot. And then give it to God, because he likes all those sorts of things. Hand it over to him. So whatever is your concept of God, just kind of give it, or if there's no concept, give it to the universe. Because that act of giving, it frees you. And there's a lot more that can be said about it, but I think in essence that's a wonderful way of starting to kind of break down the forcefulness of going into those waste thoughts at night.
Right. Thank you. Another question. If karma does exist, and karma is about what you did in the past lives, can you really have control of your destiny? You've got them all this time.
Yeah. So does karma exist, first of all? Well, if I asked you a question, do you believe in breathing? And of course you do, because you're breathing. So for me, karma is like that. I think it's the word karma, because it's a Sanskrit, Hindi word. It gives a kind of mysticism around it, but it's very kind of practical, cause and effect, action, reaction. And so we see it playing out on the physical world, but the entirety of science is based on the laws of cause and effect. You know, there's the effect, let's find the cause. And then we can use that cause to create that effect. So that's kind of like scientific karma, as it were. Although the actual word karma is really only used for the cause and effect within the soul. So it answers all the questions about why some people are fortunate, some not fortunate. So it's because we can't see or can't remember the causes, we only experience or see the effects. For that reason, we can question the aspect of karma. So I say, yes, certainly karma exists. And about the what choice do you have? Well, yeah, we've been writing our destiny, but at any one moment we can choose. Right now, you have a choice what to think, what to feel. Sometimes we have strong compulsion, so you feel as if you don't have any choice in what to think or feel, but you do. Because, for example, if suddenly you're having lots of waste thoughts, and then instantaneously some life-threatening situation comes right in front of you, then you're not going to be having waste thoughts about what someone else said yesterday, because now it's about life and death. So mind will change like that. So it's about recognizing the power you have in your mind and using that and experimenting with it. So yes, we are writing our destiny every single second.
Right, thank you. The next one is not a question, but I am going to read it out because I think that it might help other people as well. It's just some information they want. I miscalculated the time based on my time zone. Just tuned in and realized my mistake. Please advise if this recording will be posted online for listening. Just to let everybody know, yes, our talks are recorded and they are placed out onto YouTube. If you, Manish is going to put up the address So hold on. He will just put up the address in a minute, that you just tune in into there and you will receive the class. The recording will be available on YouTube. For today's link, please send an email to bradford@innerspace.org. Send an email to bradford@innerspace.org and we will send you the recording. Okay, thank you. Right, to go on. Right, there are some which are just thanking you, Mark, for a very deep talk. And the blame game is very natural because most of us all go through it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's another one that thoughts create feelings, attitude, and actions, habits, personality, destiny. Is it right?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
That was, I think, Rita, because she's putting her hand up. Okay, Rita.
That's how it is.
Yes, it is right. Another question is, how would you set out to change multiple aspects of your life? Lifestyle habits, example, smoking, alcohol use, overeating. Can several goals be worked towards at once?
Well, I can share my personal experience. Before I started meditating and studying spirituality, I enjoyed a drink and a smoke. Nice bit of Jack Daniels and going out and a few other things as well. But once I started meditating and giving time to that, and actually, well, I didn't experience that much, but what I did experience was like a power of truth. So I didn't experience deep peace or bliss, all of it, or a lot of the things that other people were telling me about, or in the group of people that were with me, someone was saying, when we met each week, someone was saying, oh, I had these colours and lights and went into this different scene. I had nothing, none of that, and no feelings. But what I did experience was like an authority of truth. It's like a perception that this knowledge is truth. And so that really captivated me. So I wanted to explore it. And for me, without any effort at all, I just realized after a few months, I hadn't smoked and I hadn't drunk. I just hadn't even thought about it. It just gone. So that's one way of dropping that. And it's just focus your mind on something of a much higher order. And another way is to really kind of define the kind of life you want, both physically and emotionally and spiritually, and then ask yourself, a bit like I said in the talk, what does that look like when you're living that? What kind of feelings will you be experiencing? And there's a lovely saying I read somewhere, it's actually called As a Man Thinketh, and that is, you don't get according to what you want, you get according to what you are. So very interesting. So it's what you are, and so you will get. So all of the habits are connected to what you are. So to be free from all of that in your life, define what you are on a deeper level. Define yourself in a way where those don't exist. So it's very difficult to give up smoking when you're conscious of yourself as a smoker. It's very difficult to give up drinking when you're aware you are a drinker. So redefine who you are. You're not a drinker, you're not a smoker. You are a living being, a being of light, light of love, peace, power, etc. And you can expand there.
Very good, very lovely answer. Okay, one last question. What is the difference between sympathy and empathy?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because the empathy, as kind of defined it earlier, is a kind of, I see it as feeling or being in tune with someone else's feelings. And so the deteriorated form of empathy is where you're literally experiencing the same emotions as the other person. And like I mentioned, I don't think that's a very good way to go, because you fall down rather than helping them. And the higher level of empathy is to have that awareness or understanding of what they're experiencing. So let's keep it high definition. Empathy is to have an understanding of what others are feeling, and being able to be compassionate for that. And sympathy, must admit, I've never liked the word sympathy. I wouldn't like anyone to feel sympathy for me. Sympathy is kind of like, I suppose it's merged in compassion as well. When there's empathy, I think like many of these qualities, they kind of go hand in hand, and where one becomes the other is a bit of a grey line. So empathy, the recognizing and the knowing what they're feeling, and sympathy, it's more you are having good kind of heartfelt feelings of benefit for the other. Empathy, knowing where they are, and sympathy, having good feelings for benefiting them.
Mm.
I much prefer compassion and benevolence myself.
True, true. Thank you, Mark. I think we'll have to finish the questions just there, because we just want to make announcement of next week's programs. But our contact details are 01274 309 404 is our phone number. 01274 309 404. Email is bradford@innerspace.org, O-R-G. And our website, and please do go onto our website, because new talks and sessions, any changes taking place, they're always pretty updated on the website. The website is bradford.innerspace.org. Thank you very much. Okay, so our talk next week is on September the 5th. Yes, September the 5th is a talk by Paramjit Basra. Now, those of you who know him will, or have heard of him before, will know that he's a very good speaker. He really sort of puts himself really out to, really enjoy doing the talk. That's his specialty. And the special subject he's going to do is healing relationships. Actually, Manish had another picture. He chose the heart one a little later on, but before that, he had one that had these three people sort of who had really fought it out. They'd really tore each other apart. And then it made a lot of sense to say, how do you heal that relationship? So Zoom ID is the same, 814-097-6317, September the 5th at 5 o'clock. Do join us for this. It should be really good. Thank you. And then, of course, we have our weekly Tuesday creative meditations. That is every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And the Zoom ID is again the same, 814-097-6317. And every Thursday, we have virtues and powers. And that is also at 6 o'clock and the same Zoom ID. So definitely do join us. We look forward to welcoming you on these programs. Thank you again, all of you. Mark, thank you. Thank you so much for those deep insights. And I'm feeling a little jealous because you're sitting by the sea. And though I have a very, very extraordinary, beautiful scene in front of me, just beautiful green trees and bushes, I'm still just wanting to see the sea. Haven't seen it for a while. So, will you lead us into a meditation, Mark? Okay, thank you. And thank you all as well for joining us, including Maureen there, all the way from Wakefield. Thank you.
How long would you like me to do the meditation for?
We have enough time, 5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Om Shanti. So sitting relaxed and alert, allowing the whole body to completely relax. Take a deep breath in and breathe out, completely relaxing, releasing, letting go. And breathe normally. Bring in the awareness of the body. Just appreciating the whole biological unit of your body. Becoming conscious of your entire body, from toes to head. Appreciating the wonder of this biological outfit. But going deeper, appreciating the real you, the experiencer of this very moment, is the being inside, the soul. To hold for a moment that thought, you are a soul, a subtle, living power, like a point of light inside the forehead of the body, that this living being, the soul, so tiny, so subtle, yet so powerful, it keeps the body moving for years and years. But I, this soul, begot the self, and think I'm the body that I am in. Now, let the self release the self, the soul, from that misunderstanding, and entertain the idea I am subtle light. Light of peace, subtle light of power, light of love. And to truly recognize that my every thought counts. I can create whatever destiny I wish for. So imagine for a moment the wonder, the beauty, the vitality of life when I am present, conscious, and selecting only the best thoughts and feelings for each scene I move through. And not only that, but to recognize whenever I want, I have the company of God, the Supreme, the Absolute One of total love, total peace, extreme silence. With that one's help, and my own consciously created thoughts, I create my destiny. I write my own destiny. Om Shanti.